The morning it all started, I was late. Which is rare for me. I'm the guy who irons his socks and alphabetizes his coffee mugs. But that day, the universe decided I needed to trip over my own shoelaces, spill espresso on my tie, and get stuck behind a delivery truck on Elm that apparently had a vendetta against green lights. When I finally made it into my office, third floor, corner unit, decent view of the courthouse, my paralegal, Dana, handed me a folder and said, "You got an email. No subject, no sender name. Just weird." I paused. Those are three words that don't belong in any legal setting unless you're watching a true crime documentary. I flipped open my laptop. One unread message. No subject. Just a PDF attachment labeled lady_hawk_case_files. Cute. I clicked. The file opened, and there they were. Dozens of screenshots. Messages. Flirty, smug, emoji-laden exchanges between a name I knew far too well, my wife, Natalie, and someone I'd only ever seen listed as Mr. R. A client. One of my clients. My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't quicken. But something inside me shifted, like an old house adjusting before a storm. Natalie always had this smile. You know the type. Soft, serene, the kind of smile that makes you feel safe. Like everything's under control, like the world isn't on fire. That smile had lied to me. I closed the laptop and sat very still in my chair, staring out at the city like it had suddenly become someone else's skyline. The first red flag? Not the email. Not even the messages. It was last Tuesday. She left her phone at home. Unlocked. Sitting face up on the kitchen island like bait in a trap. And I, being the loyal idiot I was, didn't touch it. But she came back 30 minutes later, claiming she forgot her gym shoes. Gym. Natalie hadn't set foot in a gym in 3 years. Not since the Pilates instructor tried to upsell her a couple's retreat and she told him, "My husband would rather wrestle with case law than his own flexibility." I had laughed. At the time. But after the email, that memory felt like a rerun of a show I didn't know I'd already lost. So I started reviewing our case logs. See, Natalie wasn't just my wife. She was my paralegal before she ever became my partner in vows. She knew my clients, my files, my passwords. We'd handled everything from divorce settlements to startup contracts. She even helped prep defense notes for a new client named Robert Klein. That name showed up in the email. Mr. R. Turns out, R didn't just stand for Robert. It stood for replacement. Over the next few days, I noticed the smallest cracks in her mask. She started humming in the kitchen again. Not sad songs, no. Peppy ones. The kind of tunes you hum when someone's texting you under the table. She wore perfume on days we didn't go out. Bought new heels she never showed me. Left earlier, came home later, and kissed me like a ghost she wasn't sure still lived in the house. I didn't say a word. Not then. I smiled, too. Brushed her hair behind her ear in the mornings. Poured her coffee just the way she liked it. Because I wasn't just watching her anymore, I was watching everything. They say betrayal is a knife in the back. But that's wrong. It's slower. Quieter. It's your favorite song playing in a minor key. It's the laugh you used to love suddenly sounding like a lie. And the worst part? I'd helped her write her alibi. Working late with Robert, she said last Thursday. He's having a tough time finalizing that prenup. Prenup. Right. Who needs a prenup if the affair is with your lawyer? That night, I stayed at the office. Pretended I had a late deposition. I didn't. I was just staring at the city again. Watching the lights blink on and off like Morse code for the brokenhearted. Then, around midnight, I got another email. Same format. No subject. This time, it was a voice memo. Natalie. Whispering. I think he suspects something. Pause. Robert. Don't worry. He's too by the book. He'd never look where he's not supposed to. I leaned back in my chair. Closed my eyes. And for the first time in weeks, I smiled for real. Because Robert didn't know me. And Natalie had forgotten. I write the book. Natalie started leaving notes again. On the fridge. On the bathroom mirror. Scribbled to-do lists in her handwriting, all curly loops and calculated charm. Pick up almond milk. Don't forget to drop off dry cleaning. Love you. Red heart. The last one had a heart drawn next to it. Red Sharpie. Classic deflection technique. She thought if she peppered our life with enough affection-shaped noise, I'd stop hearing the silence. I didn't. I heard everything. Her laugh changed. You ever notice that? How someone's laugh has a rhythm. And when it's real, it lands in your chest like music. But when it's fake, it skids across the floor like a broken record. I caught her laughing like that in the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear. I asked her who she was talking to. Oh, she said too quickly, Lena. From yoga. Natalie hadn't spoken to Lena in months. Not since Lena's husband caught her texting a coworker and crashed her Prius into a lamppost. Fitting company, I thought. I smiled, kissed her on the cheek, and walked out of the room. See, this wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a courtroom. And I was building my case. Over the next week, I became a man with two faces. One that kissed her goodnight, and one that logged every detail the moment the bedroom lights went out. I created a folder on my private server, EVS_314B, discrepancy log. A spreadsheet of inconsistencies, timelines, call logs, surveillance captures. I even kept a running tab of when she said she was with Robert Klein versus when Robert's calendar said otherwise. Because, lucky me, Robert had stupidly signed an electronic document granting me limited access to his files when I first agreed to take his business case. You really shouldn't lie to someone who knows how to subpoena your Dropbox. But here's what really did it for me. What moved the needle from hurt husband to quiet executioner? It was the red pen. One night, Natalie left it on my desk. Probably by accident. She was going over a client's contract, something she used to take pride in. But I looked closer. The margin notes were off. Sloppy, rushed. Little hearts next to the sections she clearly didn't read. Then I flipped the page. And there it was. Doodled in the corner, like some love-drunk teenager's confession. R plus N equals locked with key. The lock emoji. Locked in. Secret sealed. I stared at it for a long time. Not because it shocked me, but because of the audacity. To do it in my office. On my client's legal draft. With my pen. That night, I poured myself a bourbon. 1 cube. Sat on the porch with the dogs. And I realized I'd been the backup plan in my own marriage. A predictable man. A legal safety net in case the fantasy flopped. I was the contingency clause in her life contract. And she'd mistaken quiet for weakness. Loyalty for blindness. But that's the thing about lawyers like me. We don't react. We draft. We edit. We prepare. The next morning, I woke up early. Made her coffee. Toasted her bagel just the way she liked it. Burnt on one side, plain on the other. She kissed me and said, "You're such a good man." I said, "So I've heard." Then I walked into my office, locked the door, and pulled out the file. Not the Lady Hawk one. The new one. Klein versus Novak. Yes. I filed a motion to sever her from the case. Conflict of interest. Breach of confidentiality. Abuse of proximity. Let's just say Natalie's legal career was about to get the same treatment she gave our marriage, cold termination. And as I hit send on the internal notification, I stared at her initials glowing on my screen. Evie. Nothing verified. She thought she was clever. She forgot who taught her how to win.it happened on a Thursday. Thursdays were her late nights, something she made sure to mention with increasing frequency, like a magician saying nothing up my sleeves while palming the Queen of Hearts. She even dressed the part. Charcoal blazer, fitted pencil skirt, heels that clicked just a little louder than they needed to. Like she wanted the world to know she was important, or that someone important was about to see her. She didn't know I'd canceled my last client that day, or that I was sitting in the parking garage 2 levels below her favorite wine bar, or that I had already installed a little GPS tile in the lining of her purse 2 weeks earlier. Natalie thought she was playing chess. Sweetheart, I built the board. At 6:12 p.m., I watched through the tinted glass as she exited the building, heels tapping confidently toward a car that wasn't hers. A sleek, obsidian black Audi. The door opened, and out stepped the man himself. Robert Klein. My client. Technically, our client. A real estate developer with an ego the size of his skyscrapers and a cologne trail that could suffocate a small forest. He opened the door for her. She laughed, touched his arm. Then she kissed him. Not just a peck. No hesitation. No, what if someone sees? Just a slow, practiced, this has been going on for a while kind of kiss. I watched. I didn't flinch. I didn't curse. I just reached into the glove box and clicked the button on a small audio recorder. I didn't need to hear much. Just enough. Robert. I told you we shouldn't meet in public again. Your husband's no idiot. Natalie. Please. He still thinks I'm filing invoices. He has no idea. He's obsessed with his cases. He doesn't see me. Robert. He might soon. You're glowing lately. Natalie. Laughs, good. Let him wonder. A little confusion never killed a man. Maybe not. But certainty? Certainty changes everything. That night, she came home at 10:17. Said traffic was awful. Said she was exhausted from all the prep for the Thompson contract. Then she kissed me on the cheek, changed into pajamas, and climbed into bed like nothing had happened. I watched her fall asleep. And then I got up. I opened my laptop, drafted a conflict of interest affidavit, attached photographic and audio documentation, reached out to opposing counsel with a polite, discreet message. Then, I opened a new document and titled it exactly what it was. Petition for Dissolution of Marriage, Novak versus Novak. It was clean, brutal, precise, just like the betrayal. But here's the twist. I wasn't going to serve it. Not yet. See, most people think revenge is loud, explosive. But real revenge? It's paperwork. It's timing. It's making someone think they've won, while you take away everything they were building behind your back. And the beautiful part? The next morning, Natalie kissed me on the forehead and said, "I love you." I smiled, because she had no idea. Her name was already on the docket. She found it on the counter. Plain white envelope. No stamp. No logo. Just her name in clean black ink, Natalie Novak. I left it there deliberately, right next to her coffee mug, the one that said Boss Babe in a font that made graphic designers cry. She sipped oat milk lattes out of that thing like it made her more credible. Like the mug gave her permission to act like the world was her in turn. She stared at the envelope for a long second, picked it up, turned it over. Then, this part still amazes me, she didn't open it. She just slid it into her bag and said, "I'll look at it later." Kissed my cheek. Clicked out the door like nothing in her world could possibly go wrong. That's how deep her overconfidence ran. And it made my job easier. Because inside that envelope was the first domino, a list. Names, dates, case numbers, all tied to Robert Klein, our client, now the man she was busy dry cleaning her morals for. It wasn't dramatic. No accusations. No theatrics. Just facts. 3 counts of unreported billing activity. 2 flagged client conflicts. 1 potential violation of Rule 1.7 under the State Bar's Conflict of Interest Policy. Oh, and a nice little footnote. Your access to Novak legal group systems has been revoked pending internal review. She had no idea yet. Not really. But the walls were beginning to creak. That afternoon, I got a call from the ethics committee rep, one of those cautiously polite voices that tells you everything is fine, until you realize they're just offering you a chair before pulling the floor out. She's been reported anonymously, the rep said. Serious concerns about boundary violations with a client. I played dumb. Said I'd help however I could. Even offered to provide digital access logs. Oh, and Logan, he said, because I was still Logan Novak, respected attorney, devoted husband, model citizen. Looks like your firm is due for a full compliance audit. Perfect. I thanked him, hung up, and turned my chair toward the window. The city looked different now. Like a game board I already knew the ending to. Natalie got home late. Again. Something about a partner dinner. She looked off. Not broken. Not rattled. But like someone who just realized a storm was on the radar and hadn't packed an umbrella. "You okay?" I asked. She blinked. "Yeah, just tired." I gestured to her purse. "You get a chance to read the letter?" She froze for half a second. Just long enough to register the pressure building behind her eyes. I glanced at it, she lied. Didn't really get it. I smiled. "You will." And then she said something I didn't expect. "You've been really sweet lately," she said, wrapping her arms around me. Like old times. "Are we okay?" I looked down at her. The woman who'd once vowed to build a life with me, then turned around and leased out our future like a hotel suite with late checkout. I kissed her on the forehead. "We're better than ever," I said. Because she hadn't noticed the cracks yet. But they were already under her feet. Monday morning came dressed like any other. Gray skies, bitter coffee, a silence between us so thick it hummed. Natalie stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the necklace I got her last Christmas. She wore it often, probably to keep up appearances, or maybe because Robert never bought her anything but overpriced wine and vague promises. She still wore my gifts. Like she could rewrite the rules of guilt with good accessorizing. I sipped my coffee and watched her without saying a word. Then the doorbell rang. Natalie glanced at me, confused. "You expecting someone?" she asked. I shook my head. "Nope." She padded barefoot to the door. Opened it. And there he was. Not Robert. A process server. Dressed in jeans and a hoodie, holding a manila envelope and a clipboard. Friendly smile, professional tone. Natalie Novak? She blinked. Yes. You've been served. He handed her the envelope like it was a party invite. Have a good day. And just like that, he walked off. She stood there, frozen, envelope in hand, confusion blooming across her face like a slow bruise. She shut the door, walked to the kitchen, and set the envelope down like it might explode. What is this? She asked. I took a long sip of coffee. Read it. She hesitated, then opened it. Her eyes darted across the first few lines, then back up to me. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Grounds: constructive abandonment, infidelity, conflict of professional ethics. Her lips parted. You're divorcing me? No, I said, calmly. I divorced you. This is just the paperwork catching up. She sat down, hard, like her knees had finally caught up to the truth. You blindsided me, she whispered. I raised an eyebrow. Funny. That's the word I would have used when I saw you kissing Robert Klein outside Mastro's. Her face drained of color. You followed me? I didn't need to. You left breadcrumbs like you were starring in your own crime podcast. She looked down at the papers again, flipping through the exhibits, emails, appointment logs, an affidavit from our IT admin confirming unauthorized client contact on private firm channels. Then she landed on the kicker, the motion I'd filed last Friday to sever and report all client communications she'd handled related to Klein. She was listed as a professional liability risk. What is this? She said, voice cracking. You're ruining me. No, I said, quietly. I'm holding you accountable. You did the ruining. I'm just writing the closing arguments. She stood, shaking now. You think this makes you noble? No, I replied. It makes me free. There was a pause then, a long one, and in that silence, I watched her unravel. Not dramatically, not with screams or shattered glass, just quietly, like a building realizing its foundation's been hollowed out. You still love me, she said, softly. A last Hail Mary. I tilted my head. I loved the version of you that didn't weaponize trust. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. So I took the last sip of coffee, tossed the cup in the sink, walked past her like she was furniture I no longer recognized. And before I stepped out the front door, I turned back once more. You should call Robert, I said. He'll want to know his legal counsel is now a liability, and possibly out of a job. Then I walked out into the morning chill. It didn't feel like loss. It felt like liberation. There's a special kind of silence that settles after a bomb drops. Not the loud kind, no screaming, no crashing dishes. Just the quiet aftermath of someone realizing their entire world just shifted 4 inches to the left, and no one's telling them why. That's what I walked back into on Wednesday. I'd been gone 2 days. Stayed at a rental I'd booked under a friend's name, clean, spare, no memories taped to the walls. It had everything I needed, a desk, a cot, and enough silence to think. When I came back to grab the rest of my files from the house, Natalie was still there. Same robe, same look in her eyes. Shock, pretending to be calm. Logan, she said, her voice too composed to be real. We need to talk. I dropped the box of folders on the entryway table and met her eyes. You're late for that conversation. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath since Monday. I didn't mean for this to happen. That sentence. The first line in every cheater's post-credits scene. I walked past her, grabbed my laptop bag from the study. You picked your path, I said. I just made sure it had signs. She followed me into the kitchen, barefoot on the tile, like the last time we stood side by side still counted for something. Robert meant nothing at first. I swear, it started as, don't, I cut in. Don't insult both of us by dragging in the at first. That's not the part that mattered. You protected him. Her mouth twitched. You were distant, she said finally, with more fire now. You buried yourself in work. You forgot how to see me. I laughed once, low, bitter. You think neglect justifies deception? You think forgetting to compliment your new haircut is grounds to blow up a marriage? She didn't answer, but she didn't deny it either. I stepped closer. Not to intimidate, just to tell the truth clearly. You know how many nights I stayed late at the office, Natalie? For us. For the house you said you wanted. The vacations you said we deserved. I gave you stability, and you mistook it for apathy. I didn't. But he made you feel something, I said, cutting her off, so that made it okay, right? Because emotions now come with permission slips. Because logic is overrated and loyalty is conditional. She looked away, couldn't meet my eyes. Then she said something that stopped me cold. I told him you wouldn't fight me on it, that you were too composed to blow it all up. I stared at her. And you were right. I didn't blow it up. I leaned in, voice calm, razor sharp. I took it apart quietly, like a surgeon removing rot from a patient too proud to admit they were sick. Then I walked to the front door, box in hand. She tried one last Hail Mary as I opened it. I made a mistake. But you're punishing me like I'm a criminal. No, I said, pausing in the doorway. I'm treating you like a former partner who breached the contract. Then I left. But here's the part one hadn't expected. That night, my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I picked up. A voice I recognized immediately, slurred, panicked. Robert Klein. You think this is going to end clean, he said. You think I'm just going to walk away from everything we built? So he was panicking. You built nothing, I replied calmly. You borrowed trust from someone else's foundation. And now the landlords come to collect. Click. That was the first domino. The next day, he lost his lead developer, a man I'd quietly advised to walk when this all started. Then his board started asking questions. Then the press got wind of an HR incident. Natalie? She got an email from the Bar Association. Formal notice. Her license was under review. See, I didn't scream. I didn't rage. I didn't throw her out. I handed her the rope and let her tie the knot. It came at 3:17 a.m. A text message. One line. No punctuation. No flourish. Please don't let it end like this. Natalie. I stared at the screen in the dark, lying flat on a mattress that still smelled like new plastic. The kind of smell you get from starting over too fast. I didn't answer right away, because there's no polite reply to a message sent out of fear, not remorse. She wasn't asking for reconciliation. She was begging for control, trying to rewrite the ending of a story she no longer had a pin in. I set the phone down. Didn't sleep. The next morning, I got an email from the firm's oversight board. Robert Klein's contracts were under review. Not just the business ones, ours. The ones I signed when I foolishly brought him on as a client. But there was one thing he didn't know. Before I filed anything, I'd amended the original intake form. Changed Natalie's listed role from paralegal to consultant. Without client clearance? That's a violation. And guess who never signed the updated copy? Robert. So now, from a legal standpoint, he hadn't just violated his contract with our firm, he'd engaged in unsanctioned negotiations with someone not authorized to represent us. He thought he was sleeping with power. He was just sleeping with a liability. The news hit a day later. Klein and Stratton Holdings under investigation for contract misconduct. It was everywhere. Local sites, trade bulletins. Even a financial blog I never knew existed tagged me as unnamed legal source. That was fine. I didn't need credit. I just needed Natalie to read the headlines and see what she'd really chosen. At 9:44 a.m., I got another text. You've made your point. Please. Let's talk. This doesn't have to get worse. I didn't respond, because I'd already scheduled the next move. At noon, she received an official request from Novak Legal Group's administrative board, an itemized list of any and all billable hours logged under her username for the past 12 months. They gave her 3 business days to comply. She wouldn't be able to. She knew it. I knew it. She'd faked at least 60 hours. Billable fraud. And that's not just a slap on the wrist in our line of work. That's a career ender. I didn't want to destroy her. But I wasn't about to be the man who built the platform she jumped from, either. It happened in a park, of all places. She asked to meet in a neutral spot. Said she didn't want a scene. Funny, coming from the woman who turned my life into a slow-burn soap opera. I agreed. Curiosity, mostly. She showed up dressed like it was a funeral. Black everything. Minimal makeup. Eyes puffy, but no tears. She still had pride. Just less of it now. We sat on a bench. I didn't speak. She did. I just want to say, I'm sorry. Not I hurt you. Not I betrayed you. Just, sorry. Like she bumped into me in a hallway. I waited. She continued. I was lost. I felt stuck. You stopped seeing me, and he, Robert, he made me feel wanted. I stayed silent. Because what do you say to someone who mistakes a spark for a lifeboat? Then came the pivot. I don't want to lose everything. I know what I did was wrong. But maybe if we pause the divorce, work through this. There it was. The real reason she asked to meet. Not closure. Damage control. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry it didn't work. She wanted a fire escape now that the building was burning. I looked her dead in the eyes. This isn't a movie, Natalie. There's no monologue that rewrites the ending. She swallowed. Hard. You don't forgive me? I stood. You didn't ask to be forgiven. You asked to be spared. And then I left. She didn't follow. Because she knew the firm had one little clause in our contracts. Tucked away, rarely used. In cases of professional breach, the secondary partner may be offered the opportunity to acquire full ownership by vote of the board in confirmation of costs. Natalie never bothered to read that far. She assumed her role beside me meant protection. It didn't. It meant exposure. After 3 votes, 1 arbitration hearing, and a single sworn statement from IT, Natalie's access to Novak Legal Group was revoked. Not suspended. Terminated. I watched her walk out of the office that morning. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just looked hollow. The receptionist offered her a box. She didn't take it. Instead, she glanced up at the frosted glass door, where my name was already the only one etched on the surface. Novak Legal Group. No co-founder. No shared title. Just mine. I didn't smile, but I felt something close to peace. I didn't burn her to the ground. I just took away the matches. 1 month later, the divorce was finalized. The firm was mine. Robert stepped down from his company citing personal reasons. His face was still floating around LinkedIn like a bad resume. And Natalie? Last I heard, she was taking space, which I assume means Googling how to make a comeback without a license. But me? I was done. Almost. See, I had one last move. Not cruel. Not loud. Just poetic. I boxed up her old things, headshots from our website, mock-ups of our firm's original branding she once proudly oversaw. And one final item. A printed photo, black and white, of me standing in front of the firm logo. Below it, I wrote in her red Sharpie. You should have read the fine print. Then I mailed it. No return address. Just a quiet punctuation mark on the sentence she tried to rewrite. And with that, I exhaled. I didn't get revenge. I got closure. And that was worth every page.